Hello everyone, this is Sumit Bose and I am from the Bodhi Academy. Today we are going to discuss on the chapter how, when and where. Okay. So without any further delay, let's start. Dates. How important are the dates? There was a time when historians were fascinated with dates. They were heated debates about the dates on which rulers were crowned, on battles were fought. In the common sense notion, history was synonymous with dates. You may have heard people say, I will find history boring because it's all memorizing dates. Is such a conception true? History is certainly about changes that occur over time. It was about finding out how things were in the past and how things have changed. As soon as we compare the past with the present, we refer to time we talk of before and after. Living in the world, we do not always ask historical questions about what we see around us. We take things for granted, as if what we see has always been in the world we inhabit. But most of us have our moments of wonder when we are curious and we ask questions that actually are historical. Watching someone sip a cup of tea at a roadside tea stall, you may wonder, what did people begin to drink tea or coffee? When did people begin to drink tea or coffee? Look out of the window of train and may ask yourself, when were railways built and how did people travel long distance before the age of railways? Reading the newspaper in the morning, you have may be curious to know how were people get to hear about things before newspaper began to print it. So this is why history is very important. All such historical questions refer us back to notions of time, but time does not have to be always precisely dated in terms of a particular year or a month. Sometimes it is actually incorrect to fix precise dates to process that happen over a period of time. People in India did not begin drinking tea one fine day. They developed a taste for it over time. There can be no one clear date for a process such as this. Similarly, we cannot fix one single date on which British rule was established or the national movement started. Or changes took place within the economy and society. All these things happened over a stretch of time. We can only refer to a span of time, an approximate period over which particular changes became visible. Why then do we continue to associate history with string of dates? This association has a reason. There was a time when history was an account of battles, big event. It was about rulers and their policies. Historians wrote about the year a king was crowned, the year he married, the year he had a child, the year he fought a particular war, the year he died, and the year next ruler succeeded the throne. So basically, historians were more focused on the rulers. But what about the common people, right? For events such as these, specific dates can be determined, and historians such as these debates or dates continue to be important. As you have seen in the history textbooks the past 2 years, historians now write about other issues in the questions. They look how people earn their livelihood. So this is the major difference between previous history books and these history books. Previous history books used to highlight more the rulers and their kingdoms, the battles. But Now, the historians are more focused on the non-common people, how they earned their livelihood, what they produced and ate, how it is developed. Okay, which dates, but with what, by what criteria do we choose a set of dates as important? These dates we select, the dates around which we compose our story of the past, are not important on their own. They become vital because we focus on a particular set of events as important. If our focus study changes, if we begin to look at new issues, a new set of dates will appear significant. Consider an example. The history is written by British historians in India. The rule of each governor general was important. These histories began with the rule of first Governor General Warren Hastings and ended with the last Viceroy Lord Mountbatten. In separate chapters, we read about the deeds of others: Hastings, Wellesley, Bentinck, Dalhousie Canning, Lawrence Lytton, Ripon, Curzon, Harding, Irving. It was seemingly never-ending succession of Governor General and Viceroys. All the dates in these history books were linked to these personalities and their activities, policies, and achievements. It was if there was nothing outside their lives, and that was important for us to know. The chronology of their lives marked the different chapters of history of British India. Can we not write about history about this time period in a different way? How do we focus on activities of different groups of class in Indian society within the format of history of governor generals? When we write history or a story, we divide it into chapters. Why do we do this? It is to give each chapter some coherence. It is to tell a story in a way that makes some sense and can be followed. In the process, we focus only on those events that help us give shape to the story we are telling. In the histories that revolve around the life of British government generals, in activities of Indians simply do not fit. They have no space. What then do we do? Clearly, we need another format for our history. This would mean that old dates will no longer have the significance they earlier had. A new set of dates will become more important for us to know. How do we periodize? In 1870, James Mill, a Scottish economist and political philosopher, published a massive 3-volume work, a history of British India. In this, he divided Indian history into 3 periods: Hindu, Muslim, and British period. The periodization came to be widely accepted. Can you think any problem of this? Why do we try to divide history into different periods? We do so in attempt to capture the characteristics of time in certain central features as they appear to us. So we do this because we want to capture the exact piece of time. Okay. So terms through which we periodize, this is discriminate the difference between periods become important. They reflect our ideas about the past. They show how we see the significance of the change from one period to the next. Mill thought that all Asian societies were at lower level of civilization than Europe. According to his telling of history, before the British came to India, Hindu and Muslim deposits ruled the country. Religious intolerance, caste taboos, and superstitious practices dominated social life. British rule, Mill felt, could civilize India. To do this, it was necessary to introduce European manners, arts, institutions, and laws in India. Mill in fact suggested that British should conquer all territories in India and ensure enlightenment and happiness to the Indian people, for India was not capable of progress without British help. In this idea of history, British rule represented all forces of progress and civilization. The period before British rules was one of darkness. In any case, can we refer any period of history as Hindu or Muslim? Did not a variety of faith exist simultaneously in these periods? Why should we characterize an age only through the religion of rulers at that time? To do so is to suggest that the lives and practices of the others do not really matter. We should also remember that even rulers in ancient India did not all share the same faith. Moving away from British classification, historians have usually divided Indian history into ancient, medieval, and modern. This division too has its problems. It is a periodization that is borrowed from West, and where the modern period was associated with the growth of all forces of modernity: science, reason, democracy, liberty, and equality. Medieval was a term used to describe a society where these features of modern society did not exist. Can we uncertainly accept this characterization of the modern period to describe the period of our study? As you will see in this book, under British rule, people did not have equality, freedom of liberty, nor was a period of economic growth and progress. What is colonial? In this book, you will read about the way the British came to conquer the country and establish their rules, subjecting local Nawabs and Rajas. You will see how they established control over economy and society, collected revenue and meet all their expenses, brought the goods they wanted on low prices, produced crops they needed for export, and you will now understand the changes that came about a consequence. You will also come to know about the changes British rule brought in the values of taste, customs, and practices. When the subjugation of one country by another leads to these kind of political, economic, and social and cultural changes, we refer to process of colonization. You will, however, find all classes and groups did not experience these changes in the same way. That is why the book is called Our Past in the Plural. How do we know? What sources do history writing about? Administration production records. One important source, official records, is the British administration. The British believed that that the act of writing was important. Every instruction, plan, policy, decision, agreement, investigation had to be clearly written up. Once this was done, things could be properly studied and debated. The conviction produced an administrative culture of the memos, notings, and reports. The British also felt that all important documents and letters needed to be carefully preserved, so they set up record rooms attached to all administrative institutions. The village Tahsildar's office, the collectorate, the commissioner's office, the provincial secretaries, and the low courts all provide record rooms. Okay, these are the record rooms. Specialized institutions like archives, the museums were also established to preserve important records. Letters to memos that move from one branch of the administration to another in the early years of 19th century can still be read in the archives. You can also study the notes and reports that district officials prepared, or the instructions or the directives that were sent by the officials at the top of the provincial administrators. In the early years of 19th century, these documents were carefully copied out and beautifully written by calligraphies. Word calligraphies. Those who specialized in the art of beautiful writing. By the middle of the 19th century, with the spread of printing, multiple copies of these records were printed and proceedings of each government department. Surveys became important. The practice of surveying also became common under the colonial administration. The British believed that a country had to be properly known for before it could be effectively administered. By the early 19th century, detailed surveys were being carried out to map the entire country. In the villages, revenue surveys were conducted. The effort was to know topography, the soil quality, the flora, fauna, and the local historians, and the cropping pattern. All these facts are necessary to know about administration of the region. From the end of the 19th century, census operations were held by 10 years. These prepared detailed records of the number of people in all provinces in India. Nothing information on caste, religions, and occupation. There were many surveys: botanical surveys, geological surveys, archaeological surveys, anthropological surveys, forest surveys. What official records do not tell. From the vast corpus of record, we can get to know a lot. But we must remember that these are official records. They tell us what the official thought they were interested in and what they wish to preserve the prosperity. These records do not always help us understand what the other people in the country felt, and what lay behind their actions. For that, we need to look elsewhere. When we began to search for these records, other sources, we find them in plenty. Though they are more difficult to get than official records, we have diaries of people, accounts and pilgrims and travelers, autobiographies of important personalities. As printing spread, newspapers were published and issues were debated in public. Lenders and reformers wrote to spread their ideas. Poets and novels wrote their experiences and feelings. All these sources, however, were produced by those who were literate. From these, we will able to understand how history was experienced and lived by the tribals and the peasants, and the workers in the mines, or the poor people in the streets, getting to know their lives in more difficult tasks. Yet this can be done if we can make a little bit of effort. You read this book, you will see how this will be done. I hope you all understood the chapter. For more information and details, please contact the Bodhi Academy.